All right, let's talk Star Trek, because right now there is a serious debate raging over the newest series, Starfleet Academy. You've probably seen it online. For some people, it's this exciting new chapter, a fresh take on the franchise. But for others, it feels like a total betrayal of everything Star Trek is supposed to be. So the big question is this the future of the franchise we've been waiting for, or has it completely lost the plot? Let's get into it. And this quote right here, wow, it just perfectly captures the feeling at the heart of this whole thing. This isn't just mild disappointment we're talking about. This is a deep sense of frustration from fans who have loved this universe for decades and now feel like it's becoming something they don't even recognize. This really sets the stage for a critique that's coming from a place of, a very strained love for Star Trek. So here's our flight plan for breaking this all down. First, we're going to dig into that fan frustration that's been bubbling up for a while now. Then we'll explore a really interesting theory about what the studio might actually want out of these shows. After that, we'll look at the first 2 episodes side by side, a premiere that was surprisingly good, followed by a second episode that many are calling a complete nosedive. And finally, we'll try to answer that million-dollar question. Who is this show even for?
Okay, so to really get why everyone's so worked up about Starfleet Academy, you first have to understand the bigger picture of what a lot of fans call new Trek. This isn't just some standalone show. For a lot of people, this is a make-or-break moment for the entire modern era of the franchise, a time where it feels like fan patience is really starting to wear thin.
And a huge amount of that pressure, fairly or not, lands squarely on the shoulders of one person, showrunner Alex Kurtzman. I mean, he's been in charge of this whole era of Star Trek. But with his big contract renewals supposedly on the horizon, Starfleet Academy is being viewed as his final exam. Whether this show succeeds or fails could set the course for Star Trek for the next decade. No pressure, right? So it really all boils down to this, doesn't it? Is this show going to be the thing that finally pushes longtime fans away for good? The death knell for this era? Or could it actually be the exact opposite? Could this be the brilliant shot in the arm that revitalizes modern Star Trek and brings everyone back on board? The stakes honestly couldn't be any higher. But to understand why the show feels the way it does and why fans are so split, we need to look behind the curtain a little bit. This next part explores a fascinating theory about the whole philosophy of making these shows, and it points to a potential clash between what makes a story great and, well, what makes the studio's accounting department happy. And this chart right here just lays out the conflict perfectly. On the left, you've got what so many diehard fans say they want: deep, complex stories. We're talking submarine-style tactical battles in space, thorny diplomatic negotiations, big moral questions with no easy answers. The kind of stuff that needs really talented, experienced sci-fi writers to pull off. But then you look at the right side, and this is the theory about the studio's reality. From a production standpoint, the hero is the person who delivers a show on time and under budget. And one of the easiest ways to do that, chase trends. And right now, that trend is teen drama, which is often seen as way easier and, let's be honest, probably cheaper to write than hard-hitting science fiction. So with all that context, all that frustration, you'd think the show was dead on arrival. But this is where the story gets really interesting, because against all odds, the first episode of Starfleet Academy was actually pretty good. Critics went in expecting the worst, and they came out genuinely surprised and, most importantly, entertained. So what went right? Well, for starters, the guest stars were absolutely incredible. You had Paul Giamatti just chewing up the scenery as this pirate captain, and it was amazing. And Holly Hunter brought this incredible gravitas as the ship's captain. On top of that, the visuals looked great, the action scenes were exciting, and a lot of the new characters were seen as way more interesting than what we've gotten in some other recent Trek shows. It felt like a solid foundation. And the plot itself was pretty straightforward. Classic Star Trek. You've got this brilliant young hacker kid, Caleb, who sends out this secret message into space, hoping to find his mom. But the message gets picked up by a nasty crew of pirates, who use it to set a trap. This forces our brand new, totally green cadets to figure out how to work together, use their unique skills, and somehow save the day before their ship gets blown to bits. It's a setup we've seen before, but it works. So after all that, the big question, what was the score? A 5 out of 10. Now, I know what you're thinking. A 5 sounds kind of mediocre, but you have to see it in context. When you compare it just to the other new Trek shows, some felt it was maybe even a 7. But when you hold it up against the entire 50-plus year legacy of Star Trek, it lands right smack in the middle. It's perfectly average. Not a disaster, but not a masterpiece. It was fine. And for a lot of people, fine was a huge relief. But if episode 1 was that sigh of relief, that glimmer of hope, episode 2 was like watching someone trip at the top of the stairs and just tumble all the way down. The drop in quality was apparently so sharp and so sudden, it gave people whiplash and completely changed their entire outlook on the series. Yeah, the score plummeted all the way down to a 3 out of 10. And this wasn't just a minor stumble. This was seen as a complete, fundamental shift in what the show was even trying to be. It was jarring, and it left critics feeling totally baffled and exhausted. So what on earth happened? Well, the main critique gets boiled down to these 2 words: CW drama. This is basically shorthand for when a show completely shifts its focus away from big sci-fi ideas and instead puts all its energy into teen relationship problems, forced love triangles, and the kind of drama that feels like it belongs at a high school, not on the bridge of a starship. And the writing was a huge part of the problem. People pointed to the use of really modern slang, like a character literally says someone has rizz, which feels incredibly out of place in a story set 800 years from now. There was this intense focus on who likes who, forced love triangles that had zero chemistry, and dialogue that just felt like it was talking down to the audience, avoiding any kind of complex or challenging sci-fi idea. And if you want the perfect example of this, look no further than the main plot. The episode sets up this high-stakes diplomatic crisis with the Betazoids, a total classic Trek scenario. But then it spends maybe 5 minutes on the actual diplomacy. The whole thing doesn't get resolved through smart strategy or a clever compromise. Nope. It gets resolved because the lead diplomat's daughter has a crush on one of the main characters, and a romantic apology is what solves the interstellar incident. It just felt incredibly weak. So, after all of that, the fan anger, the theories about the studio, the roller coaster from a pretty good episode to a really, really bad one, it all leads us to the final judgment. And it's the most important question you can ask about any piece of media. Who is this for? And the argument that many have landed on is frankly pretty cynical. It goes like this. Why don't they just make a show for the existing Star Trek fans? Because making that kind of smart, layered science fiction is really, really hard. And it's expensive. You have to hire top-tier writers who can actually write those complex stories. The theory is that, by comparison, writing teen drama is just a simpler, cheaper path for a studio that needs to get a show made. So where does that leave us? Well, the ultimate conclusion here is a tough one. The show seems to be alienating the old fans by ditching the very things they loved about the franchise, but at the same time, by using what feel like pretty generic teen drama tropes, it's not really offering anything new or exciting to grab a whole new audience either. And so the final brutal verdict is that in trying to appeal to everyone, it winds up feeling like it's for no one at all. And that really leaves us with this massive, critical question that goes way beyond just Star Trek. This is about every big, beloved franchise out there right now. How do you evolve? How do you bring in a new generation of fans and try new things without completely destroying the very soul of what made people fall in love with it in the first place? It's the ultimate tightrope walk. And as Starfleet Academy seems to show, one wrong step can be absolutely heartbreaking for the people who care the most.